The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. That this happened faster than usual is due to the urgency of this pandemic and the extraordinary collaboration of dedicated scientists around the world.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/vaxfax. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS. It's okay to have questions about getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Wherever you are in your decision, the New Jersey Department of Health can help. Watch New Jersey doctors discuss important COVID-19 vaccine information at nj.gov/health/vaxfax. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS.
Remember before COVID-19, when we could go to shows or celebrate in person or have family gatherings where the only worry was when someone was going to talk politics? Let's get back to that. Let's get vaccinated. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free. Sure, we'll have to keep wearing masks for a while, but you know what? This is the start. Go to covid19.nj.gov/vaccine to register for your vaccination. Remember traveling somewhere? Anywhere? Yeah, let's get back to that.
Christopher Media. Let's make some noise. From Asthmacore Studios near Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, man.
It's the Weedsman Podcast.
I have no idea what's going on.
And now,
you have smoked yourself retarded.
here are the Weedsmen.
You want to get high?
Oh, the fully vaxxed Weedsman Podcast.
Oh, yes.
We in a matter of weeks, we could be in the same room together again. It would be loud.
That's right. Boy, we've gotten so used to doing it this way.
Yeah, right?
That
Sure, other podcasts too. Like, I wonder, like, if Adam Carolla, if anyone else is ever going to travel with him ever again. I'm sure it brings down the travel budget when they just zoom in 3 people to the show instead of bringing 3 people, 3 more plane tickets, 3 more hotel rooms. I wonder what things are going to stick after the pandemic and what aren't. There's definitely going to be some things that hang out after the pandemic. Like, I think restaurants are forever changed.
well, restaurants are. I don't know what's good. I would hate to be a restaurant owner right now.
I think if you have a drive-through window, you're like, what pandemic? Yeah,
maybe, but then I mean they've got staffing issues now.
Yes, that has been the.
And restaurants are not great places to work at. People work at restaurants because it's convenient. If they have, jobs where maybe they're sometimes working and sometimes not, and so they can pick up, shifts here and there. They're a little more flexible. You can work, at nighttime if you're going to school or have kids that you have to take care of during the day. There's all kinds of reasons that people do work at restaurants, but good work environment and high pay are not amongst them.
Yeah.
And when people start finding other ways to make money, like they've been forced to do during this pandemic because they don't have restaurants they can rely on for work and tips and all that, then you're starting to have some real competition now. Plus the state. I mean, restaurant owners are just pleading for the government to stop giving out money so we can hire these people for $2.35 an hour.
Well, those are just the servers.
Yeah, I know.
And you always hear that sob story, but the other thing is I've known a lot of servers. If you're a good server, that check is nothing to you because you're making all your money. Trust me, good servers are making like 60, 70 grand a year.
Oh, yeah, no doubt that can happen, but that's not the norm. That's the exception. And I'm not really shitting on it. This is kind of a separate conversation from the minimum wage thing. Really, it's just more about the conditions. People generally get treated like shit from my experience who work at restaurants.
Well,
it's just kind of accepted.
Yeah, well, it's also part of the talent pool. I mean, what the thing I was going to say about a restaurant as somebody who's been in the industry for a number of years It's where you go when you don't have education, but manual labor isn't your thing. I mean,
Right.
To be brutally honest. So, I mean, a lot of it's treated like shit, yes and no. I mean, but a lot of it too is, I mean, it's part of the workforce you're dealing with too. It's you know you're signing up for those hours. You know, there's a lot of stuff you know you're signing up for when you join the restaurant game.
Oh yeah. And I'm not saying all restaurant gigs are shitty, but anyway, I don't know how we started off with this.
Right.
What
We're
do we
fully
want to
vaxxed.
start off? Oh yeah, okay. So we're vaxxed, we're ready to get back out in the world, or I don't know. I wasn't really out much in the world
Right.
before, so I feel like I'm brain farting. I got some new shit, and this has really just ruined my day. I was very non-productive today.
Well, it means it's good shit.
It was really good shit, and it's Creeper too.
Ah, good old Creeper.
Yeah, which I don't know that I've really experienced that from a concentrate before. All the concentrates tend to pretty much hit the same from my experience. But I got a new cartridge this is a Michigan place. What is this called? Redbud Roots.
Oh, I've had one of those.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. So I've been sticking with Pyramid lately because that was a brand that I could generally trust not to taste weird and not fuck up as far as the cartridge is concerned. But they didn't have any of the Pyramid at the time, so I got the Redbud because the price was right on it. But yeah, it ended up being a really good find. It was reasonably priced. I got a gram cartridge of live resin for $50.
Nice. It's a good deal for live resin.
Yeah, and I mean, how much of it is actually live resin, or are they just calling it that? Who knows? But it tastes like it, and like I said, it hits pretty hard. And I didn't intend on spending the day watching TV, but that's all right. I'll make up my work.
Hey, just work like 2 hours extra the next 4 days, and there you go. You made it up.
Well, I don't exactly work a job where I can get away with like fucking off for a whole day without having to make that up, because it's going to be pretty evident at the end of the week if I don't have my shit done.
Gotcha. Hey, start an hour early, work an hour late, boom. A Creeper,
So-
man. It's always fun, right? Oh, man, this isn't that great. And then 10 minutes later, you're like staring at the TV with your mouth half open.
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit. Never mind. You take like 9 rips off the cartridge, and then you realize, uh-oh.
But it was definitely a pleasant surprise because, I mean, this is going to be another brand that I turn to now because I knew for sure there were other brands, and I'm not going to call them out, but there are other ones that I've experienced and I don't want anything to do with anymore. They put too much junk in their shit. It makes me cough. This tastes like just the distillate or whatever. There's no extra added flavors, and I don't have coughing fits from it or anything like that.
I do say I have one no-fly brand. Like if I have a cartridge of this brand, it means everything else was out because it
Cartridge of last resort.
Yeah, because it burns fast, and the way it tastes, you can tell there's other shit in there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put them on blast, but yeah, they're on my no thank you list.
But in general, it seems like the availability of products is increasing. It's more consistently. This is kind of a blip that they didn't have the Pyramid. They've had that shit week in and week out for me, since I was into it. But also the prices seem to be coming down as well. So this whole month I've been reading about stories about scarcity. What can't we get? Certain types of milk or ketchup packets. Not ketchup, just in packets for some reason. Certain types of lumber is, all the stuff that the pandemic's affected. And I really felt like that cannabis was going to be one of those things that was affected. But, when you stop and think about it, when we look at how much the market is increasing, and at the same time the stigma is dropping. More people are openly admitting to and openly consuming.
Oh yeah.
And then you throw in the pandemic where people don't have a whole lot else to do. So you've got probably, really high sales, and that's going to naturally start dropping those prices.
Yeah, I'm sure weed and booze had a bang-up 2020. Sure, anything that altered you had a great sales year.
And I'm also starting to see more evidence of direct competition, because I've been following, there's not a whole lot of places around me, but I do keep my eyes on what's available. And I'll see shit turn up and, somebody's got it for like $10 less than somebody else. And then the next week, that other place dropped their price on theirs.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's more because there's more rec places opening, right? I mean, it probably was the same thing with medical places when it first came here. There was only a handful of dispensaries. There could be certain price points, but as more and more people opened, prices came down. And I'm sure that's going to happen with rec, too.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. So, J-Lo and Ben Affleck are back together?
Man, you know what bummed me out about this?
What's that?
This means Ben Affleck's got to be hung. Or he's just slinging really good dick. To get the retap 17 years later. Like for a week, too.
Or maybe she realized that, having a big dick wasn't the end-all, be-all. Maybe she was looking for something else. Maybe she realized that even though Ben had a small dick, that she made a mistake.
I'm just saying, you get the call back 17 years later, you had to be putting it to her. You don't get for a week. She's like, hey, you want to go away for a week? 17 years later, after a week out of my relationship?
Well, isn't that how these things usually happen?
Ben must know all the right spots to hit. Just saying.
Yeah, but why fuck around? If you're rekindling a relationship, maybe some people do go like, well, let's start small and go on a date. But generally, you're right back in the thick of it.
Maybe she just always needs a penis. Is that theory been floated out there?
Based on what? Because she dates men?
No, there was like a week, I don't know, maybe it seemed like a week. But it seemed like her and A-Rod just broke up. And now she's spending a week in Montana with Ben Affleck.
Ooh, that hussy.
I'm not saying that hussy. I'm just saying, maybe it was over a lot sooner than A-Rod thought.
Well, the overlap, I'll give you that. That's more of a woman thing.
Hey, whatever. For 50, J-Lo's 50-something. Shit. Remember what 50-something women looked like when we were kids? They did not look like fucking J-Lo. I'll tell you that.
Well, they don't all.
Oh, that's fair. That is fair. But I will definitely say your average 50-something woman looks a lot different than we were kids.
Yes.
Definitely a lot more maintenance going on in 2021 than perhaps in the 80s with the ladies in their 50s. Not complaining, just an observation. But that was people in general, though. Didn't Wilford Brimley look like that since he was 26? I remember seeing that there were guys. I'll say the same thing too. There were guys in our 50s when we were kids that looked like fucking guys in their 70s now.
It seemed like, you were.
I don't know if it's because there was more smoking or what. It
used to be that you would, by the time you were 25, you were settling down and you had found your thing, right? Whether it was I smoke a pipe, or I have horn-rimmed glasses, or I like to fish, or I'm really into my car, or something. You found your thing, and that was your thing, and then you were like, okay, now I get my dad look going on, and I do that for the rest of my fucking life. I pick out my haircut, and whether I wear bow ties or regular ties, whether I do the short sleeve button-up shirt or the long sleeve button-up shirt.
But were we more stressed? Did we smoke more? Or what? Because Bald Brian brings this up all the time. You'll see an older picture of a bunch of people in their 20s, and they'll all look like they're pushing 40. I mean, was it how they dressed, or what? Like I said, was it more stressful because the whole world was at war? Was it, there was the Depression? Everybody smoked. Like, people seem to age a lot better nowadays. Now I get it. There's other factors at play here, you know, with plastic surgery and things like that. But
no, but it's not just a surgery. It's not just a medical thing. Like, I'm with you. I think we're just healthier.
But we're eating shittier food.
Well, yeah. I mean,
like, the other thing about these pictures, though, is no one's ever overweight because processed food wasn't as prevalent yet.
The FBI released its file on Kurt Cobain this week.
Is he still dead?
Yep.
Cool.
Case closed.
What was the file? What was it about? About his murder?
There wasn't really much to it, honestly. And it doesn't look like there was anything that the FBI were even looking into. I think they just had to have a file to put things that they received. Like, there were letters from people that were beseeching the FBI to look into Kurt Cobain's death as a potential homicide and not a suicide.
Oh.
And, you know, it was, if you've seen the documentary, what was the documentary called back in the day? The one where they interview Courtney Love's father, and their father's like, nope, that cunt killed her for sure. I know my daughter, she's a bitch. She killed that dude.
I forget the name of the documentary, but I remember the one you're talking about.
It was like Kurt and Courtney or something.
It sounds right.
That might be it. But yeah, I mean, they talk about the letter that was found where, like, I guess the handwriting changes in it. They think that, like, Kurt had penned a retirement letter to his fans, and that somebody had taken that and added the suicide stuff for it and then staged a suicide.
It sounds rather elaborate. And at this point, with DNA technology, would have been found out already.
That's quite elaborate to explain the death of somebody who's strange. I mean, this is somebody who is quite open about their, like, nearly lifelong struggle with depression, right?
Yeah. And drugs.
You know, his death was not expected and was certainly horrific, but I don't remember anyone back in the day going, like, no, not him.
Yeah, right.
Like, there was a lot of, like, you go, oh my God, and then you go, well, there you go. You know, like,
you were shocked because it happened, not because he did it, if that makes sense.
It wasn't like Britney Spears committing suicide, like, oh my God, like, nobody knew what was really going on with that person. They kept it all hidden. Like, this guy was out there writing songs and making millions off of his depression.
Like in 1990, if they were like, Robert Smith
on display for the fucking world to see, and we all went, you're such an icon, never change, dude. And he's like, I'm hurting inside.
Like in 1990, if someone was like, Robert Smith cut his wrists, I'd be like, well,
yeah,
seems accurate.
Maybe you shouldn't write so many sad songs. You ever think about that?
Yeah.
You're doing it to yourself, Bob.
Or if all of a sudden one day they just say that Bono is beaten to death by somebody who couldn't take it anymore, I would get it.
Yeah.
The edge finally snaps.
Yeah, I was going to say. There's probably a band member.
I want to use my overdrive pedal. Clean channel for 40 years.
Nope. You get chorus and delay.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. That's all you get.
In this band, we only use time-based effects.
If I hear one smidgen of overdrive, you're out of the band.
No. I swear, it's just a compressor. I heard distortion. It says clean boost.
You turn that gain down.
Having an FBI file makes it sound like the FBI was looking into you. But really all it means is that you were famous enough for, like, crazy people to write to the FBI about you.
Yeah, it's more like we looked into things about you based on things people asked us.
Yeah. It's a far cry from like FBI file on John Lennon. That was somebody that they were actively like, we got to keep our eye on this Brit. He might be causing trouble.
Yeah, dossier was a little thinner than the Lennon file.
Yeah, very much.
Took one sheet of paper. No, he killed himself.
I saw a John Lennon license plate today.
Oh, God.
Right? And it wasn't like, a frame that went around it. It
was back around to nobody cares.
It was actually on the plate. It said, imagine across the top, and it had the sketchy self-portrait that is pretty much his trademark now. And the weird thing is that the plate was from Florida.
I was going to say, is this a Michigan plate?
Yeah, it wasn't a Michigan plate. It wasn't a New York plate. I only say Michigan because that's where we're recording from. But why would Florida have the option for a customized John Lennon one? I don't know. Maybe they have a lot of them. Maybe they have Brooks and Dunn as well.
Oh, here you go. It's being explained. It's only in Florida.
Oh, really?
Yoko Ono Lennon has kindly authorized God, I can't read today. Yoko Ono Lennon has kindly authorized the use of the John Lennon self-portrait image to help end hunger in the state of Florida. Okay. But why is it just in Florida? Does she live in Florida? Well, she is old.
Yeah.
Hey, it's only $25. You can have a John Lennon license plate.
I can't really say anything. I've given so much money to the John Lennon estate from all the... Well, I take that back.
There's a California one.
I think that we probably received most of it as gifts, but my first child was decked out in all of that John Lennon baby shit. The rugs and blankets and stuffed animals and sheets and bibs and shirts and all that shit.
I loved him when I was younger, but the more I found out about him as I got older, not as big of a fan of him as I used to be. Like when I was younger, I loved his music and hated Paul's, and as I get older, like I appreciate Paul's music a lot. Well, and George's music a lot more than
for sure.
Like because it's, I guess I was looked at John as the artsy Beatle, and then you get older and realize he was just doing it. He was being artsy for artsy's sake. He wasn't. There was no substance behind it. If that makes any sense.
Sure. I mean, he was kind of doing a Warhol thing.
Yeah.
The fact that there's nothing behind it is the art. Like, that is part of the statement that he's making. But yeah, he kind of comes more from pop art and Dadaism and stuff.
A cruder way of saying it is you realize how much full of shit he was as you get older.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that too, yeah.
However, I Am the Walrus. Still probably his masterpiece. I'll fucking argue that till I can't breathe anymore. I should say it's more George Martin's masterpiece too.
Yeah, a lot of that song is the production, although, songwriting still.
Yeah. Trust me, with my radio gig, I hear plenty of songs where they're produced like a motherfucker, but they're still shit songs.
Yeah.
Like, whenever I hear this music, all I think of is, like, how do you perform this live? Most of the music I hear. Like, how do you do this without, electronic backing tracks and auto-tune all over your voice? If the power goes out and you still have to play your gig, how do you do it?
Even the acts that are writing their own material, or at least writing original and sometimes interesting songs, is still like just... I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess I don't want to get into it. Let's move on.
We got old.
It's just yeah.
Short answer.
There's too much of, like, the lyrics sound like they're just written from somebody's teenage journal. Like, they're just rambling.
Because half of these people are
teenagers. They're like, and I remember the time that I took you on my car and it broke down and we had to walk, and it's like, I don't know, dude. That's not really an interesting story.
One of the biggest songs in the country for the last fucking 3 months is a song about a girl talking about getting her driver's license.
Yeah, I'm generally not into story songwriting. I just like my shit more abstract.
Yeah, well, look somewhere else in music in 2021.
I don't need a narrative to follow.
Trust me, the older I get, the more appeal I'm starting to see in jam bands.
Popular, same thing with comedies. Sorry, I got something in my throat that I can't get out. One sec. Comedy is another one where, especially the movies, I just don't get it anymore. Well, I'm trying to think of the last really good comedy movie that I saw.
Well, because it's a lot of this internet humor seeping into it, and it's stuff that we've aged out of, I think. Trust me, I felt like I was aging out of Comedy Central, but I feel like I'm aging back in. But I told you, I think they've realized that they've been around so long now, they have an older audience they have to cater to now. They didn't before.
Yeah.
But it's for a while, from probably 2015 to last year, I just felt like I had aged out of comedy. Just all of these things that I'd watch and be like, that's not funny. Maybe a 21-year-old thinks that's funny, but I don't. And a lot of it is just, it's this real, it's this internet comedy, a lot of, there's no edginess anymore, right? Because everyone's worried about offending everybody. It's all just turned into, it's all working clean, right?
Yeah, it's got no bite to it.
It's all Jimmy Fallon and fucking Jim Gaffigan, that type of shit. No, those guys can at least be funny. But you get what I'm saying. Nobody works blue anymore because, you might offend somebody. You might end up on the internet and not be able to get work anymore.
So I was trying to find the story. So this was going around Twitter this week because IndieWire released a ranking of the best comedies of the 21st century.
Oh, boy.
So everything post-2000 is what they're considering here. Here's their top 10. Number 10, Midnight in Paris.
What is that?
I thought that was isn't that one of the Art Linklater movies with Ethan Hawke and what's her name, where they meet up in a foreign city? Anyway, I think that's what it is. I might be wrong. Number 9, Burn After Reading. Probably one of, that's like the least funny of the Coen Brothers comedies.
I know Burn Notice.
Number 8, Enough Said. I don't know what that is at all. Have you heard of that?
No. Let me look it up here. Looks like it's got James Gandolfini in it.
Notoriously hilarious dude.
95 with the critics, 75 with the people.
Maybe I have to check this movie out. I don't know.
It's him and Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, she's always funny.
But it says it's a romance on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's weird. Number 7, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Finally, we get to a movie that I've seen and also think is funny.
They're talking about the last 20 years? That's only number 7? Yeah. That should be a top 5.
Number 6 is Superbad. So, right there, you put that in front of 40-Year-Old Virgin.
I think... Right? I don't think... Well, if you look at it... I don't think you get Superbad without 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Right.
But I think Superbad's right about where it should be.
Number 5, Team America World Police.
Okay.
That's a funny movie. I think it deserves to be up there. It might be a little high, but...
Yeah, I don't know if it's top 5. It's a top 10.
Number 4, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Get the fuck out of here.
Man, I tell you, after watching that movie, my knee was sore. I was slapping it so much. That is a gut buster.
Are you being facetious?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
I was talking about Wes Anderson movies with somebody last week, and I said they're spotty. Like, some are great, and some are big, pretentious pieces of shit. And the Grand Budapest Hotel is a big, pretentious piece of shit.
I think it's pretentious. I don't think it's all shit. I think it's got... There's a lot of charm in it, but I don't know. Yeah, it's not a hilarious movie.
You're saying that is the 4th funniest movie of the last 21 years?
Dude, it gets worse.
Gets worse? There's only 3 left.
Yeah. Number 3, Lost in Translation.
That's not a comedy. That's a fucking romance.
It's kind of a depressing one, too.
It's like... Who the fuck... What is IndieWire's definition of comedy?
I guess has Bill Murray in it. Like, it's got Bill Murray. Must be a comedy.
This is a suspect top 10. There's no Grandma's Boy in it. So what's number 2?
School of Rock.
Are you shitting me?
That's a decent movie, but... I mean, Nacho Libre is better than School of Rock,
the last 21 years? Are you
The Tenacious D movie is better than that.
Yeah, that was Jack Black selling out. That was Jack Black making a kids movie. That was Jack Black. That was a paycheck movie for Jack Black. Ugh. So, oh, good Lord. What the fuck's number 1?
Well, number 1, this is an obvious one because we all know that there's absolutely nothing better, more funny than a movie about old divorced dudes who are having a midlife crisis, and that's Sideways.
What?
Sideways. That's how they rank as number 1. Like,
I was hoping you were going to say like Napoleon Dynamite.
I think it does make it into this list, like later on down the.
I didn't hear you say Anchorman.
I believe that appears in the teens.
I didn't hear Old School in there at all. I didn't hear Step Brothers.
Step Brothers really should be in there above Superbad or 40-Year-Old Virgin or...
Step Brothers is a top 10 of the last 21 years. Oh,
yeah.
Come on now.
But I think this kind of highlights what's wrong with comedy. Like, we can't even agree on what is funny anymore.
Like Sideways, isn't it? That's also a fucking romance, isn't it?
Right. So I think that that Grand Budapest Hotel, Lost in Translation, Sideways, these movies get in there because they've got some yucks and they're woke enough. And there's probably a lot of other comedies from the last 20 years that they've looked at and go, well, yeah, everyone agrees that Step Brothers is really funny, but like looking at it now, it's problematic because there's a lot of like homo jokes or whatever, whatever could offend anybody.
So that's why the first Hangover probably not on this list.
I would imagine so.
Paging Dr. Faggot. Whatever. Oh, that's why Old School's not on there. That's right.
Yeah.
The opening scene. I recommend you stop being such a faggot. You're in the back seat. Oh, that's right. Todd Phillips. He's problematic now. Those are both Todd Phillips movies. But fucking IndieWire. No. Your top 10 is garbage.
It's a shit list. It's an absolute shit list.
It's some 22-year-old made their fucking...
I don't know. I have a feeling there was a committee involved in this one.
Is Trainwreck on there? That movie is hilarious.
Trainwreck.
It's the last funny thing Amy Schumer did.
I think that appears later on down the list, yeah. I couldn't find the... Oh, wait, here it is.
Although all the LeBron James jokes lost on my wife. I thought they were hilarious. But if you don't know who LeBron James is, just go right over your head.
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.
Remember before COVID-19, when we could go to shows or celebrate in person or have family gatherings where the only worry was when someone was going to talk politics? Let's get back to that. Let's get vaccinated. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free. Sure, we'll have to keep wearing masks for a while, but you know what? This is the start. Go to covid19.nj.gov/vaccine to register for your vaccination. Remember traveling somewhere? Anywhere? Yeah, let's get back to that.
It's okay to have questions about getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Wherever you are in your decision, the New Jersey Department of Health can help. Watch New Jersey doctors discuss important COVID-19 vaccine information at nj.gov/health/vaxfacts. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We had independent scientific reviews from a data safety monitoring board.
Overwhelmingly, it's safe for you.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/vaxfax. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS.
Remember before COVID-19, when we could go to shows or celebrate in person or have family gatherings where the only worry was when someone was going to talk politics? Let's get back to that. Let's get vaccinated. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free. Sure, we'll have to keep wearing masks for a while, but you know what? This is the start. Go to covid19.nj.gov/vaccine to register for your vaccination. Remember traveling somewhere? Anywhere? Yeah, let's get back to that.
It's okay to have questions about getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Wherever you are in your decision, the New Jersey Department of Health can help. Watch New Jersey doctors discuss important COVID-19 vaccine information at nj.gov/health/vaxfax. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We had independent scientific reviews from a data safety monitoring board.
Overwhelmingly, it's safe for you.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/vaxfax. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We had independent scientific reviews from a data safety monitoring board.
Overwhelmingly, it's safe for you.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/vaxfax. That's nj.gov/health/VAXFACTS.
Media.net. The Weedsman Podcast.
And hey, come on, no, but Team America's got plenty of problematic shit going on in it.
I guess because it's puppets?
Well, for starters, neither Trey... No, it doesn't matter anymore, right? With the voices, right? Trey Parker's not Korean, so he's got to go.
That's a very good
That's also
point.
a racist depiction. I'm sure at some point there are some female voice actors who are going without gigs because Trey and Matt want to do their voices. You think those black puppets, those were black people doing their voices? Huh?
Oh, that's right.
Come on, is The Simpsons teaching us? Hank Azaria is just going to lose all of his gigs. No. They've replaced Apu, Dr. Hibbert. Apparently they added some gay hairdresser for Marge that Hank lost. Hey, Nancy Cartwright's not a 10-year-old boy. She's got to go.
Well, that whole cast is, like, really creeping up there. Like, how old is Harry Shearer? And
it's got to be pushing 70. Yeardley Smith isn't a 7-year-old girl. We got to replace her.
Yeah, who does Marge?
Julie Kavner.
Julie Kavner. She's got to be up there, too, with Shearer.
Holy
like at some point,
Harry
is that
Shearer
what it's going to
is
take?
77 years old. Holy fuck. He's almost 80.
Yeah. Somebody major is going to have to kick the bucket before they cancel that show. Like if they lost Marge, do you think they could get away with recasting Marge?
No. I mean, that is a distinct voice. Julie Kavner is 70.
Yeah.
Well, what Homer's got to be fucking up there. Dan Castellaneta?
Yep, he's been around.
Oh, he's a young one. He's 63. Wow, did he ever have hair? He was bald when The Simpsons started. It means he was in his 30s.
I don't know what he looks like. I'm sure I've seen pictures of him before.
He's always had the horseshoe. Even back when they first started, he's always had the horseshoe. Has he been bald since he was 26?
Has he been in anything like? Does he do live action acting at all? Has he ever?
Oh, you're going to see him on Parks and Rec. He plays he is the NPR host in Palm.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then
That's
later,
funny.
And then later on in the series, John Hodgman joins them.
Yeah. And because I was thinking about Parks and Rec, actually, just because they had H. John Benjamin on. And he's one of those guys where, like, every time he shows up on something, I'm like, that doesn't look real. Like,
you just hear Sterling Archer.
Right. I mean, he's so many things for me now. He's like, Coach McGurk.
Yeah, I was going to say McGurk. I think McGurk and Archer.
Yeah. He's so great at that, but like, he just, when you see him in real life, you're like, no. It's like when you see, like, NPR is a good example. If you ever see somebody that you've listened to a lot on the radio and then you get to see him like interviewed on television, you're like, that doesn't look right. That's not how I pictured them looking. That voice doesn't look like it's coming out of their mouth.
Yeah, you have it built up in your mind. Remember in Wayne's World?
But also,
ironically, when they met Harry Shearer, he was Handsome Dan.
Like, nothing against H. John Benjamin, because I think he's hilarious and he's an excellent voice actor, but he just does not have that it. Like, he has zero presence on screen. I'm sorry. There's a reason why he's a really good voice actor and doesn't get other gigs.
I say that's why he's got 9 million voice jobs, and he's apparently a good writer. He's written on tons of shows.
Oh yeah, totally. But fine for guest stars. He pops up something. I'm like, hey, it's that dude.
Also, I remember the very first time I heard him, he was Benjamin Katz. Remember Dr. Katz?
Right.
He was Dr.
He played
Katz's
his son. That's so okay. Where can I find that? Like, nobody's streaming that shit. All I can find is DVDs, and I don't want to buy a whole DVD box set of Dr. Katz, but I want to watch that shit again. Like, HBO has home movies, but they don't have Dr. Katz, the original Squiggle Vision show.
Right.
I was checking out Girls 5 Eva.
Is that recently, any good?
And it's really funny. Yeah, I dig it. It's well, I mean, if you enjoy 30 Rock, it's got the same rhythm. It's not.
What's Tina Fey show, right?
I think it wasn't created by Tina Fey. It was, let's see, Meredith Scardino is the creator of it, but it's got Tina Fey's thumbprint all over it. Like the funny incidental music for everything, and just the production values, a lot of the characters. You see, what's the guy who played Dennis? Dean Winters, right? Isn't that the dude that
Mayhem?
He also does,
as we all know him from the Allstate commercials.
Right? Yeah. That dude. And he plays kind of a similar character in this. And Tina Fey shows up as Dolly Parton.
Oh wow! Or we also, for Law and Order fans, Miss Cassidy.
Dean Winters?
Yeah.
He was on Law and Order.
He was on SVU. He was one of the original cops way back in the day.
I originally know him from, Rescue Me, I think.
I never, I didn't know him until he was Dennis. But then, going back and watching SVU with my wife, like the early seasons, like he predates Ice-T on Law and Order.
Yeah. But no, the show's good. I mean, it's got that kind of, well, the Tina Fey stamp is always like, it's got that kind of zaniness to it. Like, we don't really believe that all the stuff God, why am I blanking on everything?
Well, it's a quick delivery style. It's very rapid fire.
Right. So when one of the characters says something that's absolutely ridiculous, and if you stopped and thought about it for a second, you're like, that doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't even matter because they're on to the next joke. So they get to like kind of pave over a lot of stuff and do more ridiculous humor, and it works. And it's got like that similar vibe to it. But the cast is really great, especially Paula Pell. My God, she is fucking amazing in this. And if you don't know the concept, it's a girl group that had they were a one-hit wonder around the 2000s. And in modern day, some rapper samples their song. And that gets them a little bit of push to, get the ball rolling on, hey, why don't we give this another shot. So it's 40-somethings doing a girl group thing.
So it's aimed at us?
Yeah, absolutely. It is like our demo is like right in their crosshairs.
Gotcha.
So we should talk about weed a little bit before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Recently, the head of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, which, if you're not familiar, this is a government organization that is just focused on, studying drug abuse and drug treatment. And the director, Nora Volkow, said this week that, in a paper entitled, in a paper titled, "Addiction Should Be Treated, Not Penalized," they go on to say drug use continues to be penalized despite the fact that punishment does not ameliorate substance use disorders or related problems. Imprisonment, whether for drug or other offenses, actually leads to much higher risk of drug overdose upon release.
It's basically saying it doesn't work. Treat it. Because when they come out, they're fiending.
Yeah. So this is this kind of vaguely covers cannabis. What they're really talking about is drugs that have a lot more potential to destroy somebody's life. Cocaine, opioids, any kind of like severely addictive drug. But ultimately, this is what they're saying is the war on drugs not only hasn't worked, it's time to give it up completely. It's not just that we need to de-escalate the war on drugs, and maybe we should relax our stance on cannabis, and maybe it's okay to allow more more research into psychedelics. This is flat out what they're saying is the way that the government has pursued drugs in this country has been more harmful to the people than what the drugs alone would do, I'm not saying that left on their own that a person is just naturally going to get sick of cocaine, but it is it's a better possibility than if they go to jail for that, right? If that person has a cocaine addiction, but they also have some structure and they manage to hold down a decent job and have some family around them, they have a lot more opportunities for help and a lot more incentive to follow through on that and actually do something about their addiction. If you take that person and put them in a prison, then you're pretty much guaranteeing that they're not only going to be able to get their hands on any drug that they want while in prison, but that they're going to continue to do that when out.
You're treating the symptom, not the disease.
Nope. It says further in this paper, we have known for decades that addiction is a medical condition, a treatable brain disorder, not a character flaw or a form of social deviance. Yet despite the overwhelming evidence supporting that position, drug addiction continues to be criminalized. The U.S. must take a public health approach to drug addiction now in the interest of both population well-being and health equity.
Well, I think the more that the ball keeps rolling on cannabis legalization, we're going to have no choice but to go this way.
Well, that's what yes, but cannabis is just kind of the thing that's helping get the foot in the door.
Yes.
Psychedelics are going to be a lot more impactful. And we're reading a lot more stories now about how people have, there's been successful trials with like full-on psychedelic, like mushroom and LSD type of derivatives. And also, I don't know if they're classified as psychedelic, but drugs like ecstasy. And there's even I read articles about how investors are really hyped about psychedelics, even more so than they are on cannabis.
Oh yeah,
because
they're legal in Colorado. Mushrooms are, and then Oregon, everything's legal.
Right. Well,
I should say
because
decriminalized.
What ultimately, I don't think that the goal isn't that you're going to have a store where you can go in and buy some mushrooms or some ecstasy. It's that they managed to, boil this down into something that they can put in a pill and prescribe, and that's where the real money is.
Yeah, it enables.
You want to talk about how much people are making in cannabis in any given state. Like the prescription drugs that makes that cannabis money look like chump change.
Well, yeah, if you can finally do some research on on psilocybin mushrooms and take the things out of it that actually benefit you and control dosage, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Minnesota is voting on the House, their Minnesota House is voting on this week. Actually, by the time this comes out, we'll have known their vote already. But this is a bill that's made its way through 12 different House committees to make its way to the floor this week.
On medical or recreational?
This is a bill to legalize cannabis recreationally and expunge the records of those convicted for nonviolent offenses.
I mean, they got to figure, right? At Illinois, Michigan. I mean, like I said, Wisconsin. You're surrounded if Minnesota does it.
Yeah. Well, if you live in Minnesota, then you might want to call your representatives, because apparently, according to this story that I'm reading in ABC 5 Eyewitness News, the Minnesota House is Democrat-controlled, and this is expected to go through without a hitch. But then it's got to hit the Senate, which is Republican-controlled in Minnesota. Obviously, its chances are much graver.
Yeah, but you never know. Now, I mean, especially, when you look at the last election, the red states that came on with recreational, the worm has turned, so to speak, with most people.
Yep, and especially Midwestern Republicans, I think that they're not getting pressure from their constituents to keep this illegal.
Well, Midwestern Republicans have also seemed to realize, a good portion of them, not all, that being bipartisan is a good thing. They're not like these down south Republicans or these Texas Republicans.
Mm-hmm. And the conservative faction of the Midwest tends to lean a little more libertarian than in other areas, I think.
Like your Ron Swansons.
So, yeah, big on personal freedom. Maybe they don't enjoy the weed themselves, but they're like, hey, I like to enjoy my
property.
Yeah, I like to get drunk on whiskey. What if somebody someday decides that that's a bad thing? That the government's going to control that and tell me I can't get drunk when I wanna? How is that any different?
Paula Pell. You'll see it soon. I think it's season 4. Has a great line in Parks and Rec. She plays Ron Swanson's mom. Ask her question.
Does she?
Yeah.
I didn't know she was in it.
It's like one scene.
Yeah.
They ask her a question. Well, this is America, isn't it? Yes. Well, I don't have to answer stupid questions while standing on my own property. That's like your Midwestern Republican. A good portion of them.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So in New York, where they've recently had, their pending legalization at least, and in advance of that, they basically decriminalized it. They've told the cops, we don't want to see any more arrests for possession under, I don't know, whatever it is, an ounce or something like that. And the New York cops are pushing back on this, saying that, well, now because we can't pull people over for the smell of marijuana, it's resulted in us making less gun busts on the streets. So in a recent memo, they outlined...
like a false equivalency?
Right. So, well, the story...
You're heading down that road with that
the narrative that the cops are laying out in New York is that, there's a lot more gun violence in New York, but our actual gun busts, the guns that we're getting off the street, that number has gone down. And I'm sure it's a fact that, they were finding a lot of guns by following the smell of marijuana. You pull somebody over for an illegal drug, you get to search their trunk, and you might find some other shit too. I don't doubt that happens. That doesn't make it a justified reason to pull over everybody who smells like marijuana looking for guns. It's not a one-to-one thing. There's no relation between enjoying marijuana and having an illegal firearm.
I was just going to say, yeah, what they're essentially saying with that statement is like, well, if they smoke weed, they got an illegal gun. No, I know plenty of people who smoke weed who have no guns, or they have legal guns.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not who we're not talking about. The current, like, I'm sorry that this is a tool that you no longer have at your disposal, but I guess find a better way to do your job, because we've kind of agreed that there are limits to what a cop can get away with in this country because we believe in certain personal freedoms.
Well, the one thing that I bet you the New York cops will complain about is they can't do. I mean, have you ever been to New York City?
No.
Just the way the environment is, they can't do regular traffic stops like cops in Detroit.
Sure.
Like
right.
there is just too much. Like there's too much going on. If you pull this person over, then you're gonna have to pull the next person. Like you'd
be shutting streets down.
Yeah, you could just stay in the same spot all day and just pull somebody, like finish a traffic stop and then get somebody, within 30 seconds of finishing it. So I mean from a fundraising aspect, they're probably like, well, we can't do this, now we can't do this. I'm not trying to sympathize with them, but I'm just saying that's probably another pushback you get. Well, we can't pull people over for running stop signs because it's New York City, and that's just ludicrous.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that I'm unsympathetic, but that doesn't mean that I think that people should just relent and be like, okay, you know what? You can still search me.
No, I don't think people are going to be volunteering. Hey, look, you want to come search me? Fuck no.
No, I'm not saying that, but I don't know. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying to these cops. Like, what is? Oh well, what are you? You're complaining you get to do less of your job? Hey, I'm hearing less work, same pay. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's your solution to it? I mean, ultimately, what you're saying is that we should just go back to having pot be illegal because it makes your job easier.
How about tell the mayor to do a no questions asked guy gun buyback? Wow, I said that backwards.
What did you buy?
I think I said bun
guy bun back. Is that your porn name that you just?
It is now.
Freudian slip. I'm Guy Bunback. I'm here to fix your plumbing.
Yeah, do a gun buyback. No questions asked. Sure, you get plenty of guns off the street.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey, $100, no questions asked. Turn in your firearms.
Or just trade it for weed. Cut out the middleman.
Oh, there you go. $100 in weed. Hey, there you go. Everybody wins. You get the guns, they get the weed.
Yeah, and here in Michigan, they're trying to set laws for cannabis consumption, or basically how much THC is in your bloodstream, and if you're out there operating a vehicle, have some sort of THC limit to charge people with driving while impaired, which we all know doesn't really. There's zero relationship between how much THC registers in your system and how much of it is currently affecting you.
Yeah.
You could be stone sober and not have smoked for days and still have enough THC in your system to show up to, what they're looking at setting a legal limit of 5 nanograms per milliliter of blood.
So,
and that's the thing is how do you even, what do you relate that to? Like with alcohol.
Well, yeah, is it active? How do you measure if it's active or not?
Right. With alcohol, it's in your system and it's active while it's in your system, and then you piss it out, right? You process it, you piss out the rest, you're done with it.
Yeah, it's a short stay.
And you can give people if you have more than a drink and a half or something, you're probably too impaired. You should wait a certain, they have guidelines for this shit? How do you set those guidelines for the people to follow, to know that if they go to a party and smoke a joint, how many joints can they smoke at the party? How long do they have to wait before driving before they can expect it to be, safe to not be impaired or get pulled over and harassed by the cops? And not only do we not have that, we know from experience that everyone's vastly different. And it's not even a like you can have different strains affect people differently. I'm sure how many times have you been sharing a joint with somebody, someone's like, whoa, I got to stop. That's too much for me. And you're like, really? I can barely feel this shit. I'm going to smoke another joint.
Well, like, used to be on the show. Big Rob, right? The amount of weed it's going to take to get me and you high is going to be a lot different than take Big Rob. Because larger dude, taller, more body fat, larger circulatory system.
Well, and when we do account for that, we have guidelines for, if you're a bigger person, you're going to process alcohol differently. That's going to be a mess if they pass anything like that. And the thing is that it's another piece of unnecessary legislation, no matter how you cut it. It's just like trying to make certain things a hate crime. Like, we have laws to prosecute people when they perpetrate harm on another. Why does intent have to get into it to that point?
I just look at it as right now in Michigan, the administration that is in charge is it's the party that loves to make rules. So it's another rule to lay down so they can check the box and say, look, we did something.
Yeah, but this isn't just a Democrat or Republican issue. I mean, Michigan isn't the only one that's been looking at setting blood alcohol limits for THC. And like I was trying to lay out on my comparison, we already have laws for impaired driving, right? We don't, if you're swerving, if you're driving erratically, if you crash into somebody else, if the cops can pull you over, they can ticket you, you can get your license suspended if you're, that bad of a driver. It's not like we don't have a way to control this.
But it's all new, right? I mean, we're still figuring it out, I think. Like they're going to have to figure out a way to, how do you measure the active THC in your system? Can you even do that?
That's the thing. Like, I don't think that you do need to. You can just say, hey, if you get so high that you crash your car or crash into somebody else or do property damage, we're going to hold you accountable, right? It's not like you can get away with this shit normally. It's not like if I never smoked pot in my life, I can go mow over a mailbox, and if the cops don't find anything in my system, then you're like, all right, well, I guess you're just a crazy driver. Well, watch out then.
Good luck.
Yeah. No, they would ticket me with reckless driving. Do that enough times, you'll never see your license again. Like, you run somebody down, you could be charged with manslaughter. That'll fuck up your life. We have this shit already. We don't need special laws to control behavior of like certain types of behavior, like consuming cannabis. We don't even need it for alcohol, How
long until it's people slaughter?
Like,
by the way.
And I'm not saying that like our laws against drunk driving and impaired driving are draconian. I think in most cases they're pretty appropriate because that's a pretty heinous thing that a lot of people think that they can get away with, and a lot of, and ultimately people only learn the hard way when they get arrested or, hurt themselves or others. So, but I just don't think that we need laws specifically for drunk driving. We can just say, hey, here's the punishment. You fuck around, whether you're drinking, you're too high, you're fucking eating a Big Mac, you're on your thumb fucking your goddamn iPhone, whatever it is.
They just call it impaired.
Right. And if that means that, you're driving outside the lines, if you crash into a pole, do whatever, you're going to be prosecuted and it's going to fucking suck. It's going to cost you money. You hurt somebody, you might end up in jail. Why does alcohol have to, we have to have a subset of laws to control alcohol That's different from just operating that fucking deadly weapon of a vehicle that we do every day anyway.
Because lobbyists.
Yeah. So I don't know, dude. Like it's kind of crazy because on one hand we go, oh, it's legal now, so now we're not going to be harassed by the cops just for having it on us. But now maybe we are just going to be harassed by cops just by having it in us. We could be harassed by cops for having a certain level of THC in our blood and have zero cannabis in the car, have not consumed it that day. So it's like one step. It's like one step forward, two steps back.
I'm sure it'll be a fun. No, because my retort to that is lawyers, because they're going to argue all of the things you've brought up until the technology can measure, like, until they can tell you've just smoked. I mean, this is going to be a legal nightmare.
That's not a solution. That's only a solution if you have money for lawyers. That doesn't account for all the people that just get ground through the system and never touch a real lawyer, which is the majority of these cases.
Well, you still get your court appointed. I'm just there's a huge gray area right now. That's like we're still in the infancy of this. I mean, the whole country isn't even legal yet. So
that's the thing too, though, is that laws like this have zero to do with the legality of it. You know, our driving while impaired laws don't have any effect on the legality of alcohol. It's assuming that you can purchase and drink as much alcohol as you want. We just care about when you do it behind the wheel.
Oh, they affect the laws around them, though. Like a bartender can't knowingly serve you. Like if you're impaired, they can't give you any more. If they know you're drunk, they cut you off.
What it does is it does what bad laws do, is create more bad laws. You know, they point out other things like, oh, if we're controlling this aspect, we need to control all these other aspects of it too. And what I'm saying is that it's completely divorced from, like, the federal government could go, hey, cannabis, completely legal across the board. Banks, do your thing. Everybody sell weed and tax it. The feds aren't going to fuck with you. And that has zero effect on any of these laws that people are putting together to monitor THC in the bloodstream. It doesn't suddenly just make it wide open to drive with cannabis.
Well, it didn't with alcohol either.
Right. So it's not something that that we're going to grow into, right? This is like our laws about the legality of cannabis use will continue to evolve, and eventually, yes, it's going to open up and the whole country is going to be legal. That, I think, just seems like a no-brainer. This is one of those things that's just going to continue to get worse and worse unless the people speak up.
Well, no, because I disagree with that, because to even test for this, right, you got to have reasonable cause, right? It's like they can't just pull you over with no cause and go blow into this breathalyzer. They have to have a reason they want you to blow into the breathalyzer.
Right, but then you have THC attributed to practically every traffic stop.
Like if they pull your car over,
every time somebody doesn't do a full stop at a sign, and then they go, well, that's technically erratic driving. Let's test your THC. Well, shouldn't be driving around high. Here's your ticket.
No, because they can't do that with alcohol. They go, do you know why? They don't. If you blow a stop, they don't assume that you're drunk. They don't do that with you with alcohol. You know, they might ask you if you've been drinking.
They have certain things. So that there's certain things about what a person does when they're drunk and the way that they drive that the cops can look out for. And then when they actually confront the person, you know, there's the smell, the look in the eye. There's too many factors that can give a person away. And so then you go, okay, get out of the car. Let's test, you know, have you blow into this thing. What are those indicators for cannabis? How do I drive when I'm high? How does anyone drive when they're high? Right? And so all I'm saying is that without that, the cops can just attribute any old thing to cannabis.
Well, yeah, what you're saying is all hypothetical. So, I'm sure there's going to be standards set in law.
No. It's not hypothetical, though, because what happens is you make a shitty law, and you put that law into action, and now the cops have that.
You're just assuming they're going to abuse it.
Absolutely, they do. No, this is what happens. Okay, it's not assuming anything. There's a clear history of this. We make shitty laws. We implement the laws that we don't need, and now the cops have that tool, and then they use that tool. They go, okay, so we got to start bringing in tickets for cannabis, for driving while impaired. This is.
Yeah, but this is all based on stuff you think they're going to do.
And now the next thing you know, you have a quota. No, this is not me assuming. This is history. This is what actually happens. If you make the law, it doesn't just get ignored. It now goes, because eventually that law becomes a quota at the, you make a law against speeding. Now the cops say, well, you got to write so many speeding tickets. You make a law that says you got to keep your seatbelt on. Now the cops have to have so many seatbelt tickets each month. You make a law that says you can't drive while drunk. Now they have DWI quotas. They have quotas on all this shit. You make a law that says people can't be driving around with too much THC in their blood system. The cops, in order to implement that, are going to make a quota, and they're going to look for circumstances to apply that to. So what are those circumstances? It could be anything. It could literally be anything, well, because there's no clear indicator of behavior from the person who has THC in their system.
Well, you're clutching your pearls over standards that haven't even been set yet. You're fearing about standards that haven't even been set yet.
Well, no, they're talking about setting them right now. They're talking about implementing the standard for it, a standard that makes no sense, that we already agree on. It has no relation to impairment or reality of cannabis consumption at all. So how is that a fairly applied law?
Well, once the standards are in place, we'll see. They're not in place yet.
The standard is amount of THC in the bloodstream. That is the standard.
Yeah, but there's also going to be standards for behavior.
That's up to the cop's discretion.
Like, you don't automatically get asked if you've been drinking if you blow a stop sign. You're just assuming every cop is going to be assuming everybody's high.
Because there's nothing about blowing a stop sign that would
your
make
scenario,
anyone
every
think
cop
that you were
assumes
drunk.
everybody's high. That's your scenario.
No,
every cop is going to assume everybody is high on a traffic stop.
That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you have a tool to prosecute people for being high while driving. You're going to apply that tool. And what situations do you apply that to? What is it about driving while stoned that is an indicator that that person is impaired?
Driving probably the same as alcohol. Driving erratically, driving over or under the speed limit, doing anything to arouse a cop's suspicion.
Right. So you apply that really gray standard to something that we already know is an inaccurate measurement, and you have really nothing but the potential for abuse. I don't see how you accurately apply that law in any given situation where I'm not, hanging a fucking comically oversized joint out my window and swerving all over the road.
Okay, so pull a couple guys over and their fucking eyes are blue out as hell. I think this is a case of good with the bad, man. You want legal weed? This kind of stuff's going to come with it.
I don't see that as a one-to-one. We don't have to write more bad laws just because we just because we're being less strict about cannabis doesn't mean we need to write more bad laws to help control the behavior.
And my answer will be what it always is in situations like this: then put better people in place that will write better laws, because that's who's going to be writing these bad laws are the people we've put in power.
Okay, but that's not. I mean, we were arguing over whether this is a bad law or not, so that's kind of separate. And we got to wrap this up.
All right. Cool. Follow us on social media. Find us on Facebook and like us. We are on Twitter at the Weisman420, Instagram at the Weisman Podcast. Go to ChristopherMedia.net, hit the PayPal button in the Amazon banner if you would like to help us out. And wherever you listen to us, you can listen to us everywhere. We're on YouTube now, by the way, too. Leave a review. Leave a rating. That helps people find us. It's like everything else you do in life now, right? you buy something new, you look at the rating. You pick a new place to eat, and we're allowed to go eat places again. You look at the rating. People do the same thing for podcasts. So if you can rate us, review us, we would appreciate it. So thank you for listening, and stay high.
Stay high.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. That this happened faster than usual is due to the urgency of this pandemic and the extraordinary collaboration of dedicated scientists around the world.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/VaxFacts. That's nj.gov/health/VaxFacts.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We had independent scientific reviews from a data safety monitoring board.
Overwhelmingly, it's safe for you.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/VaxFacts. That's nj.gov/health/VaxFacts.
The COVID-19 vaccines were developed and tested within stringent guidelines from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
We had independent scientific reviews from a data safety monitoring board.
Overwhelmingly, it's safe for you.
Hear more from New Jersey doctors about COVID-19 at nj.gov/health/VaxFacts. That's nj.gov/health/VaxFacts.
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.